Have we lost the art of love? We were sell love as something to achieve, as a piece of the happiness we deeply seek, part of a natural response for the human being that we are, because love feels so good, so elevating, so powerful. We run after love, analyzing, checking, testing this inherent quality in each other, and yet we consider lucky people experiencing true love. In spirituality, love is often described as the very essence of who we are, an unconditional force present everywhere. It reveals itself through the beauty and the intelligence of the world around us, and its presence is felt through the earth. Love becomes the portal through which we experience connection, but also its absence in all the different forms love can take. On the other hand, scientists combine biology, psychology, and behavioral research to understand why love has existed throughout humanity. Most commonly, love is explained as a chemical reaction in the brain involving hormones such as dopamine, oxytocin, and more, which create attachment, desire, and emotional bonding. These experiences are also shaped by culture, environment, and social conditioning. There are countless studies and far more complex explanations, when in reality, love is defined as an emotional and relational state in which a person develops deep affection, attachment, care, and value for another person, thing, idea, or life itself. It is often combined by a desire for closeness, protection, understanding, connection, and commitment. Love is nurtured through shared experiences and conscious actions that deepen connection over time. And you, what would be your definition of love? Comment down below. In all those depictions of love, one thing everyone has in common is the desire to seek love in some shape, way, or form. Whether it's marrying the love of your life, being loved unconditionally by your family or your friends, working at your dream job, loving life itself. Because whether you agree or not, our core, we all long for love. It is the reason we seek validation, the reason we want the best for others, the reason so many of us are trying to leave a mark on the world. Beneath our ambitions, our fears, our relationship, and even our loneliness, there is often a desire to feel connected, valued, understood, and loved, consciously or subconsciously. And it is exactly why today we are investigating the universal quest for love. What are the consequences of our generation changing the approach on love? Why love feels so rare when we are more free to love than ever before? Why the pursuit of love has intensified the last decades, and what we can learn from our common dissatisfactions. Love as we imagine today is actually very recent. For a long time, people did not expect marriage to fulfill them emotionally. Women especially were taught that marriage was their purpose, the ultimate destination of their lives. Little girls grew up believing love will complete them, give them value, and allow them to exist beyond the limits of their family. Men, however, often experience marriage differently. Society was built in their favor, so marriage only became an addition to their lives rather than the center of it, while women sacrifice themselves to maintain homes, relationships, families. Many of them silently carried frustrations, loneliness, and emotional dissatisfaction. Today, people are far more self aware. Older generations often stay together out of obligation, religion, fear, survival, or social pressure. Modern relationships end more quickly because people are less willing to tolerate unhealthy dynamics or emotional unhappiness. What some call the death of love may actually be people refusing to settle. Still, this shift created a new imbalance. Many men romanticize traditional love and claim relationships were stronger in the past. Yet, many women experience the same relationship as restrictive, unequal, or emotionally isolating. Women's independence was expected to naturally to freer and healthier love. Instead, it exposed how fragile many relationship dynamics truly were. The emotional gap between men and women built over centuries has become more visible than ever. We live in a world more obsessed with love than ever before. We listen to love songs, consume romance through films and books, and we're constantly aspiring to find the one. Love surrounds us culturally, yet genuine connection often feels harder to reach. Relationships have also become deeply influenced by social media and online culture. Dating apps, constant texting, comparison culture, and unrealistic relationship standards have changed the way people interact. We are connected through devices more than through real emotional presence. At the same time, women no longer depend on relationships for survival. Many women build businesses, own properties, create wealth, and live independently. This completely transforms relationship dynamics. Traditional expectations no longer function the same way they once did, and many people struggle to redefine love outside of outdated gender roles. Love became something we actively search for, curate, display, and analyze online. Yet, the more accessible connections appear, the more emotionally exhausted people seem to become. Relationships can start feeling disposable instead of meaningful. People compare their private realities to idealized romances online, and intimacy becomes harder to sustain in a culture built on constant stimulation and instant gratification. Our freedom to love did not come with instructions. How people are supposed to nurture a healthy relationship while being overwhelmed by financial stress, loneliness, identity crisis, burnout, and anxiety about the future. Many people are simply trying to survive emotionally, mentally, and economically. Even when we believe the state of the world does not affect our personal relationships, it absolutely does. It becomes difficult to give emotionally to others when survival mode feels permanent. People become emotionally distant not because they are incapable of love, but because exhaustion leaves little room for vulnerability, patience, or emotional presence. We stop investing in others when we feel powerless in our own lives. There is also a growing feeling that ordinary people are carrying unbearable pressure. Society expects individuals to heal themselves, succeed financially, maintain relationships, stay mentally healthy, and remain hopeful, all while living in increasingly unstable conditions. As generations evolve without constantly experiencing healthy, secure love, the consequences become both personal and collective. The absence of emotional connection does not only affect individuals, it slowly shapes entire societies. Somewhere along the way, we started believing life was about choosing one thing at the expense of another: money or love, ambition or connection, success or intimacy, as if fulfillment could only exist through sacrifice. But maybe life was never meant to be about constant trade off. We began treating love as a second quest, something optional, unstable, or distracting from the real goals. Yet love was never supposed to be a perfect destination. It's a journey of trial and error, growing beside us as we experience life itself. You love for the first time, you trust, they disappoint you, they fail to meet your expectations, or hurt you in ways you didn't expect. And instead of learning how to heal and communicate or try again differently, many people shut their hearts down entirely and they decide to never trust the same way again. And maybe that's where our generation struggles the most. Our standards have reasons, but our emotional skills haven't always risen with them. People know exactly what they want in a partner, but not always how to communicate through conflict, repair after pain, or sustain intimacy once the excitement fades. It's like falling off a bike and deciding never to ride again. Instead of understanding that falling is a part of learning, we treat heartbreak as proof that love itself isn't safe. So we protect ourselves, we live faster, we detach sooner, we crave deep connection while fearing everything it requires to survive. Outside of the relationship dynamic with men and women, we can ask, what about the influence of our environment? For centuries, harmful behaviors in relationships have often been justified through biology. Men are told they are naturally hunters, naturally emotionally detached, naturally predatory, as if destructive behavior is simply a part of male instinct. But many of these ideas are not biological truth. They are social and patriarchal narratives that have been repeated for generations until they appear natural. Women, too, are human beings with impulses, desire, anger, ambition, and emotional complexity. Yet, they are rarely allowed to excuse harmful behavior through animal instinct. Society expects emotional responsibility from women while often excusing emotional irresponsibility in men. The question is no longer, is it in our nature, but rather, what behaviors have been normalized through culture? Even outside of romantic dynamics, we must acknowledge how deeply society shapes our understanding of love. Love itself became intertwined with social expectation. What many people believe were natural roles were often learned roles reinforced by religion, culture, family structures, and economic dependence. One of the cruelest aspects of modern relationships is the humiliation ritual attached to vulnerability. People who open their hearts, trust deeply, or love sincerely are often mocked for it. When someone is manipulated, betrayed, or emotionally abused, society frequently questions the victim instead of the person who caused harm. Especially for women, vulnerability is too often turned into shame. People are told they were too emotional, too trusting, too naive. They call these women bird brains rather than acknowledging the reality of manipulation and emotional dishonesty. This created a culture where people became afraid to love openly because emotional pain is not only experienced privately, but it is publicly ridiculed. Shame should no longer protect harmful behavior while vulnerability becomes the thing punished. And shame should be brought to men abandoning their families and manipulating women. Modern love also suffers from contradiction. Many people want deep connection, loyalty, softness, and emotional security, yet fear vulnerability itself. We desire love without risk. We want intimacy without exposure. We expect understanding without offering compassion in return. But love cannot survive where emotional walls become permanent. A culture built on self-protection eventually creates emotional isolation. People become so afraid of being hurt that they stop allowing themselves to truly connect. Love is not sustained only through attraction or chemistry, but through emotional generosity, through patience, honesty, empathy, and the willingness to be seen fully by another person. Perhaps one of the biggest shifts happening today is the collapse of society's old definition of love. For generations, love was presented as finding the one, experiencing a magical feeling, building a perfect relationship, or reaching marriage as the final achievement of life. Love was placed on a pedestal, transforming into something mythical or attainable. But many people no longer experience love this way. Love does not always arrive as a grand destiny or a dramatic romance. Sometimes love is built quietly, intentionally, and imperfectly. Sometimes it is something we define for ourselves rather than inherit from society. People are beginning to understand that love is not one universal formula. We must teach others how to love us, communicate our emotional needs, and create relationships that nurture us individually. Many people now expect love to heal their loneliness before they even learn how to emotionally nurture themselves or others. We seek fulfillment externally while struggling to cultivate emotional security internally. As generations change, the illusions surrounding love become more realistic and perhaps less magical. What once felt unquestionable is now being examined critically. And for some, this realization felt discouraging, especially for those who still seek love intentionally. Many questions remain unanswered, but perhaps love was never meant to remain fixed. Perhaps every generation must redefine it for itself. This reflection is not meant to blame men or women. It is meant to understand why, even in a world where people are freer than ever before, love does not automatically become healthier, deeper, or more fulfilling. Freedom alone does not teach us how to love. For the first time in history, many people are able to choose their partners more freely, beyond survival, obligation, or social expectation. Perhaps love was never meant to be something we conquer, chase endlessly, or demand from others. Perhaps love is a conscious choice. To love is not to possess, it is to nurture, protect, understand, and give with sincerity. Choosing love should not come from entitlement, fear, or loneliness. It should come from awareness. If the world feels disconnected, emotionally exhausted, or incapable of intimacy, then healing cannot remain only an individual responsibility. We must consciously create the kind of love we wish existed around us. That means becoming more intentional with the way we communicate, care for others, set boundaries, and show compassion. Love is not a feeling, it is also a practice. Love is a decision. Healing requires people to unlearn emotional avoidance, unhealthy relationship models, toxicity, and inherited fear surrounding vulnerability. It asks us to stop repeating cycles that hurt both ourselves and others. If we want a softer, healthier world, then love must become something we actively cultivate rather than passively wait for. As a magical feeling, a magical moment that can happen at any time. Perhaps the greatest transformation begins when we stop viewing love as something guaranteed to us and start treating it as something we consciously build. To love intentionally means choosing honesty over emotional games, vulnerability over performance, compassion over pride, and emotional presence over distraction. The future of love depends on less romantic ideals and more of emotional awareness. Maybe the legacy we leave for the future generation shall not be pressured, fear, or outdated expectations surrounding relationship. Perhaps it should be the freedom to love authentically, to value emotional honesty, and to understand that self-love and vulnerability are not weaknesses, but foundation for genuine human connection. We should teach our children emotional integrity. What we can remember from this episode is that we have to collectively do better and to put intention towards the love we give and communicate the ways we want to be loved, to stop shaming love but the lack of it. It is time to be the love we want to experience. I am Nathan Les, and my platform is dedicated to spirituality, feminism, neurodivergence, and more. This is the invitation to start critically think again and to intentionally make the world a greater place. If you loved the video, make sure to give a like or subscribe if you want more content. You can find me on Patreon or TikTok. The links are down below.